אמש ציינו את יום השואה הבינלאומי, 80 שנה לשחרור מחנה אושוויץ מידי הנאצים, וצריך לזכור שהעולם באמת שתק אז, וחלק גדול מן העולם שותק גם היום. כשאנחנו מחכים כבר שנה ו3 חודשים לעוד חיים, קטן אפילו, מילדים, תינוקות, מצעירות, מגברים שמוחזקים בשבי נאצים בעזה הפעם. לחרפתנו ולחרפת העולם הליברלי, הנאור, החופשי והגדול, מנהיגים פוליטיים בעולם שופטים בבית הדין בהאג, בכירים באום ועוד ועוד, באמת כל מיני ארגוני זכויות אדם, ארגוני זכויות נשים, באמת כל לוחמי החופש למיניהם, הצבועים למיניהם, ממלאים את פיהם מים. ומכיוון שהם באמת דואגים במקסימום, אבל במקסימום, איך להשתיק את האמת על מי שבאמת ניסה לבצע פה רצח עם, לא מי שמאשים ברצח עם מזויף שלא היה פה מעולם, וכל האמת, כל בקוף, כל האמת הישראלי-יהודי לא בא לידי ביטוי בעולם, החלטתי לעמוד כאן שוב כדי לדבר אליהם בשפתם, כי גיליתי באמת שכשאנחנו מדברים ברעיונות, אתם יודעים, CNN, BBC, ערוצים פה, תקשורת, זה לא נוגע כמו פרלמנטר שעומד מעל בימת הכנסת, שזו הבימה המכובדת ביותר היום לעניות דעתי במדינת ישראל, אומר את הדברים איך שהם בשפתם, מסתכל עליהם בלבן של העיניים, זה מקבל משנה תוקף, ולצערי לא מספיק אנשים אומרים את זה, ולכן תודה על הזכות לעמוד כאן ולומר את הדברים. שידעו שאת האמת שלנו אי אפשר להשתיק ולהעלים. Yesterday, we marked International Holocaust Remembrance Day. 80 years after the Jewish people faced a systematic and monstrous attempt at genocide by barbaric Nazi beasts. During that horrific Holocaust, approximately 6 million Jews were murdered, including 1.2 million children. 80 years later, there are those who dare to accuse the Jewish people of genocide. Genocide. These accusations come from individuals holding prominent positions worldwide in the UN, in The Hague, in the global media, and from political leaders. This collection of wicked voices echoes the vile lie that genocide is being committed in Gaza. They make these claims despite the fact that the Israel Defense Force operated the most moral army in the world. I repeat, Israel Defense Forces operate as the most moral army in the world. No other country would send thousands of humanitarian shipments to its enemies as Israel does. Yet the global narrative paints Gazans as innocent, peace-seeking population, ignoring the murderous, monstrous reality. A population that harbors Israeli hostages, takes part in the murder of children, the rape of women, and the mutilation of bodies. 2 months ago, the UN marked International Children's Day, claiming to raise awareness of children's rights worldwide. They endlessly spoke about the poor children in Gaza. The head of UNRWA had the audacity to call Gaza a graveyard for children. How convenient, how trendy, how politically correct it is to talk about the poor children of Gaza. These are children raised and educated on chants, Itbach el Yahud, slaughter the Jews, while the world remains silent when Jewish children are slaughtered, just as the Nazis did in the Holocaust. So let me tell you about Ariel Bibas, a sweet, red-headed boy who idolized Batman, his favorite superhero. On October 7th, Ariel was kidnapped from his bed while cradled in his screaming mother's arms alongside his baby brother Kfir. What did a 4-year-old boy and a baby under 1-year-old do to the Nazis of Gaza? In the eyes of the UN and The Hague, these sweet children are irrelevant. Their blood is cheap. Jewish blood in their eyes is expendable. To you, the hypocrites of the UN, you remain silent. You won't say a word about the children who were murdered, butchered, burned, and kidnapped just because they were Jewish. Instead, you look for excuses and justifications. You'll claim that the massacre didn't happen in a vacuum or that it's consequences of occupation. You'll side with the terrorists who shot at Adi and her children, 4-year-old Negev and 6-month-old Eshel. Adi managed to whisper to them, "Remember, Mommy loves you," before she was killed by bullets aimed at her family by your friends. You won't speak about all, a 17-year-old boy who went fishing with his friends at the beach, only to be shot in the head 6 times by your Hamas allies. You won't mention young girls like Romi and Leah who watched their parents brutally murdered in front of them in Sderot. You'll ignore the 6-year-old child burned alive by your Hamas friends. We found his body charred, his face still intact with a glazed-over expression. Who are you at the UN to demand the establishment of a Palestinian state after the majority of the population supported the slaughter of our children? Who are you to dare to support Hamas, an organization that held Israeli teenagers captive and forced them to perform sexual acts on each other? Your sadistic friends stripped Israeli boys naked and whipped their genitals, leaving burns on their bodies. Who are you, Martin Griffiths, UN Under-Secretary General, to claim that Hamas is not a terrorist organization? Who are you, Francesca Albanese, UN envoy, to say that these children were killed because of Israeli oppression? Do you sleep well at night without dreaming of the charred bodies of Jewish children? How can you justify beasts who stabbed an Israeli baby in the head while it lay in its stroller? How can you support a terrorist holding a young girl as she pleads? I'm just a little girl. I have school tomorrow. Please, please let me go, before shooting her right in the head. Let me remind you, UN hypocrites, that this is not 1944. You cannot ignore the murder of Jews simply because there are Jews. UN Secretary General, you excused the massacre by claiming it did not happen in a vacuum. You are a supporter of terror. Anyone who dares to deny the massacre of children and babies has no soul. They are a monster. If you justify the killing of a child with special needs, you are no better than the terrorist who pulls the trigger. Murdering children can be done directly or indirectly. If it were up to you, the Jewish people would have no defense. You prefer Jews as silent victims, quietly boarding trains to the death camps. You show fake empathy for murdered Jews, but the moment we defend ourselves, you condemn us. You favor Palestinian people, the people who overwhelming majority support the slaughter of children and the butchering of babies. While children in New York idolize Justin Bieber and Taylor Swift, children in Gaza love and revere Yahya Sinwar and Hassan Nasrallah. This is the culture of violence and murder, a culture that sanctifies the spilling of Jewish blood. Let me be clear. We will continue to defend ourselves and fight back. Jewish children will not be murdered for being Jewish. Israeli babies will grow up in safety. We will destroy every cruel terrorist. We know very good that you don't like it. It bothers you that Jews are defending themselves. You prefer us as punching bags, as quiet children standing in the line for the crematoria or gas chambers. We expect nothing from you. Keep your silence. After all, the last time the world was silent during a massacre of Jews, 6 million of us were murdered. But I'm here to tell you, never again.